Hi and welcome to another Wednesday with Vilna. And in today's video, I'm going to use the leaves that I cut from the full bundle cut file. And here you can see I did a cut with watercolor paper, a double cut. And then I also printed out the script paper and I did a cut with that as well. So now we're going to paint the leaves and really create a full look on our pages, and I want to show you this step by step. It's incredibly fun to do, so I really hope that you try it out with me. So first of all, protect your work surface with something big like a newsprint, or I have this big piece of cardboard that was lying around. And then you also want to use watercolors, so grab a palette of watercolors, and I'm going to use some tube watercolors, Coltman, but that will come a little later. And now just clean water, a clean brush, and now we're just going to paint our leaves. And you can see I'm using a fair amount of water, and I'm not overthinking it. I'm actually going a little fast with it, light touch of the watercolors, but I try to keep my brush as clean as possible. So this whole painting process is going to have 2 or 3 layers. So what I'm doing is I'm painting it, and then I'm letting them dry completely, and then I'm painting them again. The hard thing is you can't dry these really with a embossing tool, because they just blow all over the place. So unless you want to adhere them with something, and that's not something I wanted to do. So I'm using a little bit of green, I'm using oranges and yellows, and now you just want to basically let it dry until it's completely dry, and just as it is. Once it's fairly dry, we're going to go to the second step, and that is taking a big brush, and I'm using like a purple, and then what I did was I just splattered it over my finger. So I'm tapping the brush on my finger and then just making these paint splatters, and you can see they make the finest, most beautiful little paint drops ever, and you just want to splatter them away. I'm going to do this exact technique again in one of my art journaling videos in one of the weeks to come. But now I'm using brown, purple, or dark purple, almost a violet, and this burnt sienna color. And I basically want to just replicate the decaying of the leaves that you can see in nature actually, and this is a great way to do it. So you just want to paint splatter your way around it, and then you want to put it aside, let it dry completely, and then we'll do another layer again. You can see I even made a mess on my table, so I'm just cleaning that up right away, because it's harder to dry off dry paint than it is to clean off wet paint. And don't ask me how I know this. And this is why you don't want to use one of your embossing tools, because it's going to make a mess. So just don't do it. So I realized there and then, no, let's not do it. Okay, once that's dry, we're going to paint over them a little bit more. So I just want to give them a tiny bit of depth. And you can see very lightly, I'm just using these colors to add a touch of color to it, brown, even a little bit of green, dark green. And already you can see they're coming to life in a lovely way. I love the depth of it. I don't know, there's not a better word for me to say it. I'm using red and a little bit of darker red. And, again, just basically paint strokes. I'm not painting even, I'm just stroking the paint on it. If you can understand maybe what I mean by looking at what I'm doing. I'm not super eloquent always. I'm always surprised when someone say to me, "You're so eloquent," because I don't think of myself as eloquent. I really struggle to get the right words sometimes. So a little bit of yellow on the tips of the leaves, just dabbing the paint on. And already you can see how pretty the leaves are starting to look. So let this dry, and then just blending. I don't want I just want it to be a little bit more blended. Right, so once it's dry, you can see the dry leaves. And look how pretty they look, hey? So we're just going to make a layout with it now. And a very, very simple layout, but absolutely one of my favorite ones. So here's some of the leaves that I printed out and with the script paper, and then I used my silhouette to cut it. And look what I'm doing. I'm just adhering them just where they fell, basically. That's how simple this layout is going to be. I'm using a little bit of hot glue, and I just want a bunch of leaves, like bundled together, like a heap of leaves, like when you rake your lawn with full leaves and that look of it. And I love the layering of this very, very much. So to be quite honest with you, while I was doing it, I'm like, what are you doing? I didn't even really understand, but or thought it out really. I just love the way that the leaves fell once I put them all together, and I think that's where the idea came from. But the final page is so pretty. I just love it. So I'm super happy that I did it the way I did. And I still haven't taken any full photos of my girls. I hope that this coming weekend will be a good time to do that. It's also hard now that Tia's not in the home anymore, so to get them all together is quite a process. But I love this photograph, and I know I've said it again and again, so I'm very sorry if I repeat myself. I never ever begrudge scrapbooking a photograph more than once. Because I have 3 girls, I just realized, you know what, at least every one of them can have a layout of this photograph, and if there's more than 3 layouts from this one photograph, then one day maybe my grandchildren will have those layouts too. So I don't know. I just believe that I don't have a problem with that. Here you can see the little pine cone that is also part of the full bundle from iHeart Studio, and I like the white offset of it. It sets it a little bit apart from the background, which is quite busy right now. So now I want to paint the background paper. I just want to actually paint a frame. I felt that it needed something to contain it a little bit, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Very lightly, just a little bit of watercolor. I was actually sorry that I didn't prep my layout or the background just with a little gesso, because I'm telling you now, if I did prep it with gesso, it wouldn't have buckled as much as it did. Not that it's a super big problem for me, but if you're a little bit more perfectionistic, then you might want to just do the background with a little bit of gesso and a card. Just scrape it really thin, and that really helps the paper from buckling less. A tiny bit of watercolor paint. I used the Hooker's Green. I love that name of that paint. At the top, and then just a bit of orange at the bottom. The Hello is by Dear Lizzie, one of her ephemera packs with all these white words. You can see some more on the right hand side of the screen. And I just love the layering that's happening here. And now I'm probably looking for background paper, which is always a feat for me. As I've said in previous videos, I just ordered like 50 pages of scrapbook.com just to use for background, to make it less of a decision for me every time. And now I just wish that I don't have to cut off this little piece of paper. I must confess, it's super irritating for me to do that every time. But I must also say that it's quite a useful tool if you really want to know what's the name of the paper, especially if you're a scrapbook designer and you want to tell the people the products that you used. So yeah, it's probably a little bit of yin yang there. I'm just trimming the sides a little bit smaller, and now I'm just going to tear it, and I'm going to place my tear strips close together, and I'm just going to smooth it out. My paint is still a little wet, so I'm using a paper towel, and it was actually quite easy to do. And here you can see a detailed shot of the leaves, and they're really, really pretty. And I'm just going to add my journaling, and then I'm done with this layout. Very simple, but incredibly fun to make. So thank you for watching Wednesday with Vilna today, and I really appreciate your comments, and I'll see you next week with a new video. Bye bye.